This family photo was taken by a stranger, showing a mother with her 2 children waiting. The boy, an American kid from Hayward, is Satoshi Hibi, now 91 years old.
We were waiting for the bus to take us to Tanfran. Tanfran was a racing track.
It was April 1942. Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor 4 months earlier had unleashed a tidal wave of fear and anti-Japanese hate. Hibi and others, too young to understand war, were old enough to feel the pain of prejudice.
I remember losing all my friends. The parents said, don't go there.
Photos taken by Dorothea Lange captured Hibi's family and others as the U.S. military ordered more than 110,000 Japanese-American citizens and Japanese immigrants along the entire West Coast to leave their homes.
When the order came, people just had days and less than a week to get their affairs in order. People had to sell their homes, their businesses, their farms.
Steve Okamoto's family had been in San Francisco since 1898.
My family and others, we had to live in a horse stall that was full of manure and urine.
Tanforan in San Bruno was one of dozens of makeshift assembly centers on the West Coast. From there, people were transported to one of the 10 concentration camps or other detention centers across the nation, forced to live for years in drafty barracks behind barbed wire on desolate land. Families sometimes separated, livelihoods and lives lost. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066 on February 19, 1942. The order authorized the military to create military exclusion zones and force civilians out. Executive Order 9066 never mentioned Japanese immigrants or citizens. It was at San Francisco's Presidio that Lieutenant General John DeWitt decided to declare the entire West Coast a military exclusion zone, specifically targeting all persons of Japanese ancestry.
This is General DeWitt's office.
National Park Service Ranger James Osborne says DeWitt's historic office is still preserved on the 2nd floor of a Presidio building that's now a private school.
It was in this office, March of 1942, that he signed all those assembly orders.
DeWitt signed 108 exclusion orders. About 80,000 of those incarcerated were American citizens, many of them children.
So really this is where it became racist. You know, and there were none on the East Coast saying people of German ancestry all have to report.
Osborne says, ironically, DeWitt knew that less than a mile from his office, housed in building number 640, was a secret project. The military intelligence school where 58 Japanese Americans were training to become wartime interpreters, loyal soldiers, even as the law punished their parents.
And this was top secret. They could not tell their families. Under court-martial, they were threatened not to tell anyone their whereabouts and what they were doing.
The school, now a museum, also honors the tens of thousands of young Japanese Americans who joined the military. The 100th Infantry Battalion, 442nd Regimental Combat Team, became the most highly decorated unit in history for its size and length of service. Other Americans took a different path to show their patriotism. Karen Korematsu says her father, Fred, stayed in the East Bay for months until he was caught and arrested in San Leandro for disobeying military orders.
All due process of law was denied. So the Japanese Americans never were charged with a crime, access to an attorney, or had their day in court. And my father thought it was wrong as an American citizen.
Korematsu's legal battle went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. He lost in a 6-3 decision. But at the Presidio Officers Club, an exhibit has a quote from dissenting Justice Owen Roberts, who called it, quote, a clear violation of constitutional rights. In the 80 years since Executive Order 9066, there's been a national reckoning of the wrongs. Researchers uncovered secret government documents showing no Japanese American espionage or need for mass incarceration. In the courts, judges vacated convictions of 3 men, Korematsu, Gordon Hirabayashi, and Min Yasui. And in 1988, President Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act, providing an official apology and granting redress of $20,000 to the surviving incarcerees. But the letter of apology and reparations checks from President Bush came too late for many who had already passed on. At the Presidio Officers Club, a wall of windows bears the names of the incarcerees. Satoshi Hibi's name is there. Each person's story, a part of the nation's history. And 80 years later, a race to honor the legacy that they leave behind. At Tanforan, a memorial is set to go up in July.
We're building a memorial right now because most of these 8,000, they're not here anymore.
For some survivors, it's the hope that history will not be repeated.
During wartime and the treatment of innocent people, people are not treated as individuals, but they're treated as members of groups. I would like them to know about FDR and it's his ultimate responsibility. He could have been asked for more tolerance.
A hope, too, that future generations will find lessons to live by.
My message to everyone was Fred Korematsu was one person who made a difference in the face of adversity, and so can you.